This is something that we had expected our friends from the National Unity Platform to take a lead in. But as nature abhors a vacuum, I think the DA has picked up the pieces and said, we want to advance this, come along with us. I'll meet the NUP. We have written to them, they received our letter. We are waiting for the appointment. They are a party, we cannot push them, but at least we did what is decent to formally write and ask for audience as the DA. So we are waiting their response on that.
Omusumba ye n'asaba n'agamba bagawukule gagende wakufunguma 13
era mbyagalira ddala pulezidenti wange
betwasaba bajje batusabire tebakoze eki tebalabise
tugenda kwekalakasa paka eza paka kulia.
Members of the press, the Right Honorable Mpuuga, together with the delegation from the Democratic Alliance, DA, we are gathered here today to address you over what has transpired in a meeting that we have just concluded. For the record, this meeting was as a result of a request by the coordinator of the Democratic Alliance to engage with us over electoral reforms and the transition in the governance of this country. And so as the FDC, we found no problem whatsoever to hold this joint meeting with our colleagues who are stakeholders in the politics of this country. And we don't have any problem at all meeting anybody. We maintain an open door policy as the FDC, and we are open to dialoguing with like-minded people involved in the politics of this country. Therefore, we have held deliberations that have taken nearly 2 hours, and I must qualify these deliberations as cordial and fruitful. That we have engaged each other, talked about the politics of this country with a focus, the future of this country that we all believe should be a better country for the citizens and the visitors to this country to live in. The Democratic Alliance has presented reforms, proposed reforms contained in this document. This is an abridged version of the reforms and transitional arrangements that they have put across and brought to our attention. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Right Honorable Mpuuga for dusting up the several documents that have gathered dust in the shelves of this country, including the shelves of Parliament, and bringing it to the fore. This is something that we had expected our friends from the National Unity Platform to take a lead in. But as nature abhors a vacuum, I think the DA has picked up the pieces and said, we want to advance this, come along with us. And therefore I must confirm that in keeping with our wishes as the FDC, we appreciate these electoral reforms and the transitional provisions. And indeed, just to add on to this is a matter that I addressed the media over about 1.5 weeks ago, and we did call on the government of Uganda, the NRM, to listen to the voices of the opposition in actualizing electoral reforms and transitional arrangements so that we may have a free, fair, and credible election. That said, we have also agreed that these electoral reforms do not have to be pegged to the coming elections. That this country is not about to go somewhere else. That even after the elections, we are going to have Uganda, the nation of Uganda. And that if anything can be achieved, even if they are the bare minimum, then we will go for it. And I think FDC is very, very happy with that position. That said, fellow Ugandans, we as an institution, the FDC, are structured. We have got organs of the party under which we operate. And therefore, going forward, what has been discussed today in a closed session is going to be taken to the organs of the party. This is going to be top on our agenda in the working committee tomorrow, and we'll be digesting and discussing this and processing whatever has been forwarded by our friends. This will then find its way to the National Executive Committee, which is one of the top organs of the FDC, for further discussion. We believe, and this came out in our discussion, that there will come a stage where a small think tank, a small group will be put together to discuss possibilities of pushing for these electoral reforms. Indeed, we did agree that pressure must be mounted on the NRM to ensure that what we have desired in the nearly 20 years of the reemergence of the multi-party political dispensation sees the light of day, and that we may have reforms to the way we do our politics. Finally, it's also been agreed that we owe to Ugandans a duty to popularize these electoral reforms. And as the FDC, we have already started with this. In our 20 years of existence, we've been doing this. We are just only going to be intensifying this and calling on the public to put pressure on the NRM regime to ensure that the reforms that are so much sought by the Ugandan public, by the Ugandan citizens, are actualized. This is all that I have to say, and I would like to invite my brother, the Right Honorable Mpuuga, to address the media on what we have talked about. Brother and a comrade and president of the FDC, together with the chairman of the FDC, the Honorable Jack Sabiti, and all members of the FDC here who received us warmly this morning. It's a new day indeed for us as the Democratic Alliance, because when we set out to move and consult with stakeholders, we mentioned political parties as top of our consultations. We met the Justice Forum Party, we have met the FDC, our next destination is going to be PPP, and others on our catalogue. I want to warmly thank the president of the FDC and his team for receiving us warmly. And what he has said before you is a full representation of what we have canvassed this morning. All I can add is that we have discussed the urgency with which this push must take traction, and that we have agreed on obligations of each of the parties. He has mentioned what he's going to do as head of the FDC with his team, and as the DA, where we believe we need to do more, as they have advised us, we are going to move. We have this one country called home, all of us to save, and it's the reason why we are here. We will meet everybody, like I said. We will meet everyone willing to make a contribution to ensuring that the next election represents the wishes, including the frustrations of our community peoples, for the sake of change in Uganda. You are aware, as the media, that the conversation about the transition is ongoing, but ongoing shabbily in a manner that is probably fraudulent. And it's our job as political actors in this space to stop a fraudulent transition of power from one group or individual to another. And that's why we are here rallying our comrades to realize that all of us occupy a common space, and therefore we must occupy to fruition. You are aware that the FDC is well represented in Parliament, and therefore, out of this conversation, I have no reason to doubt that the FDC members of Parliament will come on board and try to make push out of this effort to ensure that the next electoral cycle is not a ritual. Thank you so much. There may be no formal alliance between us and the Democratic Alliance or any other political organization, but working together is something that can deliver good results. And I think in our meeting, we have talked about unity of people with common interests. How that plays out is something that is a work in progress. So we are going to be discussing internally and seeing how we tangle as two political organizations, how we relate with the other political organizations who have got an interest in what is contained in this document. And it's going to be a while until we are able to say exactly how we will be associating with each other. So I would like the public to hold this patience. We have not signed a formal document today to say, this is an agreement, an MOU between us and the Democratic Alliance. And if that becomes necessary, we will be able to call everybody, bring them on board, because there's a proposal for a national convention, it's called in this document, and I want you to take interest in reading this document. Before that happens, then there has to be some kind of formal agreements that will have to be reached as we go into that conversation. Yes? What is contained in this document has been agreed upon as legitimate concerns of the Ugandan population. It is important to note that this is not the first time that reforms are being brought forward. You will recall that we had the Citizens' Compact on electoral reforms in 2015 coming to 2016. It's also should be interesting to note that there is a private members bill before Parliament at the moment. What this document is doing is hyping this and saying, look here, there have been efforts, but nothing has been done. Would you like this time around to listen to the voices of Ugandans? I think what Honorable Mpuuga has documented, that is a bit different from what the other reforms called for, is the issue of transition. And we are very, very happy about that, because we have always spoken about transition here. Transition from a Museveni rule to the next leaders, recognizing our history, that every time we have changed from one leader to the other, there has been a conflict. There has been bombing, there has been shooting, there has been killing, there has been near genocide. And this is something that we want to avoid in the next stage of transition from the Museveni regime, from the Museveni dictatorship, to the next generation of leaders in this country. And like he has said, it shouldn't be shabby. It shouldn't be the heir apparent. It shouldn't be from, even if it had to be from father to son, it has to be organized. There has to be a formula to do this, not forcing something down the throats of Ugandans and causing chaos and anarchy in this country. Any other?
Happy to answer you, because your first press conference, I have spoken that variously, that I'll meet the NUP. We have written to them, they received our letter. We are waiting for the appointment. They are a party, we cannot push them, but at least we did what is decent to formally write and ask for audience as the DA. So we are waiting their response on that. Tuchaddeko wano ekitebe kya FDC anajja Nankumbi, twasaba mu butongole okujja batuwe obudde tubanjulire ensonga enkulu ze tukolako nga ekisinde kya Democratic Alliance. Yala kiddamu tuli kisinde, tetuli kibiina kya byabufuzi. We are a civic platform, not a political party. Because within our rank and file, we have members from other political parties. So they cannot be conscripted in a civic platform as members of a party. So tuli kisinde, tuli political party. So twasaba FDC etuwe omwaganya, yatuwebaza nnyo president wa FDC ne team ye, batukyaziza tubadde mu kafubo kasaawa 2 namba, etubanjulira ensonga ze tunnyonnyola zonna ez'ennongoseza mu mateeka agafuga ebyokulonda ne mu ssemateeka, ate n'okuteekateeka okujjuula obukulembeze. Okuteekateeka kulina okubeerawo, kubanga obukulembeze twagale tugaane bujja kukyuka mu ngeri emu oba endala. Naye nga bukyuka, twagala bugwire n'ebirooto by'abaana baffe. Twagala buteekebweteekebwe ng'abantu abagunjufu bwe bakola mu nsi ze twegomba bateekateeka okujjula obukulembeze. Waliwo amateeka ge tutalina agalina okulera enteekateeka eyo, waliwo n'amateeka amakadde ageetaaga okukyusaamu bye tubadde tubanjulira, era ne batutegeeza nti ensonga zino bazaagadde nnyo naye bagenda zongerayo mu mitendera gy'ekibiina basobole okuba nga bazitamu mu bwangu, ekibiina bakyetaagisiza nga tukikkaanyizaako babeere enteekateeka y'olukuŋŋaana tabiruka lwa bannayuganda olunaayogera ku mateeka, ku ssemateeka n'ebyokulonda. Yakuwa kopi y'ekiwandiiko kino, ensonga nnyingi naye zirimu emitendera 3: amateeka g'ebyokulonda, ssemateeka, ate n'okujjula obukulembeze. Emitendera egyo yonna girambikiddwa bulungi, nga sinava wano nja kuwaayo kopi, sobola binnyonnyola byonna. Mu ssemateeka twayanja bye twagala bikyuke, ndowooza ekyanguyira abantu kuzaawo kkomo ku bisanja na myaka. Ekirala ekiri mu ssemateeka kukyusa paalamenti, kugikendeeza muwendo gw'ababaka ba paalamenti ne structure yaayo, n'okuteekawo paalamenti 2, paalamenti eya waggulu seneti n'eya wansi. Ebirala biri mu kukyusa amateeka nga erifuga okulonda kwa pulezidenti, erifuga okulonda kw'ababaka ba paalamenti, kukyuka ebyokulonda, zizembirambulula, saagala kubiddamu, okuggyako mu bufunze kyenyinza okugamba nti mu buli tteeka lye twagala okukyusa waliwo emitwe emikulu. Etteeka lya kukyuka ebyokulonda, emitwe emikulu giri 2: okulonda kw'Abannayuganda abali ebweru n'okulonda kw'abasibe. Nze nkinnyonnyola kubanga twabakyalira mwaliyo ne batutegeeza nti bo beetegese, balinze etteeka eribakkiriza okukola ekyo. ate kizibu gye bali okukkiriza abo okulonda. Mu tteeka lya kulonda kwa pulezidenti mulimu ensonga enkulu nga 3. Esooka nga twagala presidency ekyuke, nga tukyalina vice president na deputy president era nga president wa senate. Ekyokubiri okukyusa ennongoosereza, okukola ennongoosereza mu ngeri akalulu gye kalangirirwamu aka president. Nze mbinnyonnyola kalangirirwa katya? Bakalangirira Namboole. Njagala ake Masaka, president yawangudde Masaka alangirirwe Masaka. Akalulu akaggwa. Ekyo kibe nga kikoze eki? Kiwedde. Ekabeera Maido bwe batyo. Kyetwagala. Ekyo ekirireetedi ku ekyo ekikwatagana n'ekyo nti omutimbagano gw'akakiiko k'ebyokulonda kubayisa obubaka obwo kubeere nga osobola ng'owamawulire ategeeza eggwanga okugendamu n'oggyayo ebiriyo nga bikwatagana ebyalangiridde Ssenyange Masaka. Otegeeza eggwanga nti wano waliwo akola ki? Alimba. Ekyokusatu okusoomooza ebivudde mu kulonda. Okusoma kubadde kukolebwa oyo yeesimbyewo. Tugamba nti yeesimbyewo ng'afunye obulemu obutasobola kugenda mu kkooti. Omuntu yenna omulonzi yenna omuwandiise yalonze aweebwa olukusa okugenda okusoomooza ebivudde mu kalulu. Kiri ekiri ku kinasoose kye kyokugamba nti bw'oba osoomooza ebivudde mu kalulu toyagala kusoomooza ggwanga lyonna, kubanga twagala akalulu ka pulezidenti kabeere nga katambulira ku disitulikiti. Olondo bajja wabbiddwa n'ogamba disitulikiti 8 ze ngenda okuloopa gye banzibye obululu. Ekyo kikendeeza ku buvunaanyizibwa. N'ebibadde mu kkooti ebbanga lino bagamba nti baakubye ekimala. Tumwogera ddagala kizibu ekyo kye bayita substantiality clause oba provision mu mateeka. Nti baakubye naye kye babbye tikikyusa. Paka kinogera ddagala oba rule eri mu ku interpretinga ssemateeka mu kubba obululu. So ensonga endala za transition nti abali mu buyinza bubo kyatubalaba. Bali okubanga balina ebibabo by'omutwe. Abamu bakozi ba bikolobero mubalabye, abamu batubbye ne batukaliza, abalala tebamanyi na gye balagana gye badda. Amawanga amalala agakyusa obuyinza nga gafugira bannakyemalira bakola batya? Bazirika buzirisi ne balinda bali banakoowa oba basala amagezi gonna tebasobola. Tuli mu kusala ntoto, tuli mu kusala gankolwa okulaba nti abo balina obuyinza nga bubookya mu ngalo bali mu kulowooza n'ebitasoboka. Tubagambe nti twawulidde olw'ekibatawaanya mutule wansi tusale amagezi nga bannayuganda. Ekyo okutegeera kwaffe eno mu DA gy'oyinza okukyusamu obuyinza n'enkola endala. Bwe nali bategeeza ku kitebe kya DA na Mirembe nabategeeza nti omwezi guno ogwa January mwe muli enteekateeka y'okusisinkana ebibiina, civil society, cultural institutions okulaba nti tugweyambisa ng'obudde bukyaliwo. Enjawulo eriwo nti si ffe tweyita, tusaba ne batuyita. Naye tukitaddeko olukomera nti singa kino kiggwa mu mwezi guno ebbanga eriddako nteekateeka tutabamiruka, ate ne Parliament ebigenda mu maaso nga bitambula, tusobola okukola ebbanga lya myezi tasukka 3. Ebbanga eryo ery'emyezi 3 byonna nga biwedde bisoboka bulungi nnyo okukolebwamu enkyukakyuka mu mateeka etwetaagisa okukolamu enkyukakyuka. Naye temwerabira era twategeera nti waliwo amateeka ageetaaga obudde obungi. Ku lunaku lw'okulonda geetaaga referendum, gateekebwe ka box ka referendum, wabeerewo ebibuuzo ebibuuzibwa biddibwemu ku olwo, tutaase obudde ne ssente. Gavumenti eddako eteeke mu nkola ebintu bisaliddwawo mu referendum. Ekisooka sina kye nasuubiza bannayuganda. Ndi mu kusala amagezi okulaba nti wabeerawo ekikolebwa enkyukakyuka zibeerewo. Wabanga luwa abaasuubiza nsaba obambuulize ng'obasanze kyebagenda okukola ekyenjawulo. Nsobola kuwa ekisuubizo nga waliwo ebikyuse mu mateeka ne mu nkola. Saaka kubeera mu byabufuzi byakutuusa mukolo. Ekyokubiri, enkwataganya tuzimba nzimbe nga kibeera kya busajja bukulu okuteeka ebigambo mu kamwa president wa FDC ne chairman nga ali wano. Tutaddewo tugenda kuteekawo candidate omu. Ekibazo kyaffe kigamba nti tutuule mu nsiisiro emu oba mu muti omunene gumu oba mu luggya lumu tukkaanye ne ku nkola framework y'akalulu nga tugagenzeemu eneefaanana eti. Sebaawo ffe tuyimiridde.
Omusumba ye n'asaba n'agamba bagawugule gagende ewa Mpuuga. 13.
Era mbyagalira ne president. President wange.
Betwasaba bajje batusabire tebakoze eki tebalabise
tugenda kwekalakasa paka eza paka bulungi.